All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 306 Fantasy Football Podcast. We're post-draft here now, and we're getting ourselves ready to go for the new season. On episode number 47 today for our upcoming episode here, recording on the Monday. Getting things a little bit early because we got some football back going on in PA. So coaching football tomorrow. So Tuesday recording ain't going to happen. So recording Monday here for our upcoming episode number 47 here, post-draft risers and fallers. So before we get into the action here, we'll say hello to the fellas today, and we'll start things off by saying hello to Zach. Zach, how have you been doing the last couple weeks?
Been doing okay. The nice weather's made biking to work an everyday occurrence, so that's been nice. Been saving some money on gas.
Yeah, I'll take any sort of discount I can get on gas at this point in time. It's absolutely unreal. Armand, how about yourself? What's been keeping you busy?
Oh, not too much. Kind of online with Zach there, wanting to save gas. I just found out that the federal government increased the breadth of the electric vehicle rebate to cover plug-in hybrid vehicles, and I've been looking at getting one of those. So that just has given me more motivation to actually go out and trade in our old Jeep and get a new plug-in hybrid that will hopefully not have to use any fuel when we're driving around in the city.
Got to pick up a couple extra sponsors here to help Armand out on the price of a new hybrid over there.
Yeah, get me a new car. Let's go, people.
I've been it's been a good time. I enjoyed the draft there, and we got the NHL playoffs are starting now. NBA playoffs are well into round 2, so there's been lots to watch on TV, which has been kind of nice. But I know this part of the time of year, I don't know about you guys, but the NFL draft is that kind of like, free agency happened, NFL draft, eyes are forward to the new season. I don't know, what do you guys think?
Yeah, who cares Absolutely. About the NHL and NBA playoffs? Let's go draft.
Best part, I got my big money dynasty rookie draft is gonna be on Wednesday. So by the time this episode drops, we're drafting that morning. The league that we're all three in I consider my home league. I think we're on May 11th, I think, is our rookie draft, if I'm not mistaken. So that one's coming up pretty quick. So we got some football to talk about here, and it's been good. So I'm super pumped about that. But before we get started here, I will give a quick shout out. We did our draft day giveaway, and we pulled up the winning name on the Saturday after the draft had concluded. And the winner got a 306 fantasy football hat. They ended up receiving 5 rookie cards. Throwing a couple pretty good rookies in there too as a pretty good little take home. And then as well as a free entry into our 2022 charity league as well too. So big congratulations to Mason Hawks, who was our winner of the draft day giveaway. Reached out to him on social media, so he's super excited. And we'll get a picture of him with his new swag, and we'll throw that up on the socials. But big congratulations to Mason Hawks.
Congrats, man.
That being said, we got the hat still for sale for $35. If you're interested in that, give us a little message on the old DMs, and we can get you set up with a 306 fantasy football hat. Before we get started here, I got a little story to tell you guys. This is a little impromptu. It literally came on my desk I don't know, maybe 15 minutes ago, and I want to hear what you think about this. So talking about going into the new season, I had a buddy message me, and obviously he knows I run the podcast, big fantasy football guy. They run a Saskatoon Buddies League, and he goes, "Okay, I want you to know, I want to know what you think about this." So he was in the finals championship week last year, and he's in an IDP league. Okay, he ended up losing by 2 points in the finals. So they split the proceeds 70-30. 70% of the funds went to the winner, and he received 30% as a secondary, finishing second place. Okay. He said I ended up handing it out on the Tuesday. They did the payouts, moved on. They were going to do their keepers. He opens up his app. He was the winner. There was a stat correction on the Wednesday. Nobody looked at it. So Darius Leonard got a record for a 4th fumble, so he got 5 extra points. So he ended up winning by 3 points.
Oh.
So what the heck do we do? We already paid him out $70 or the 70%. I got 30%. He's got the trophy. So what do we do? So I said, well, I'll tell you what I thought, and I want to hear what your guys think here too. And then I'll tell you kind of where they're at right now, because the saga has not concluded yet. But I said, there, you won. You're the winner. So I said I'd be messaging the guy side, like in the side message. and say, and kind of try and figure it out amongst the two of you. Worst case, if you guys can't figure it out, then I'd be messaging the commissioner, and commissioner say you make a decision. But I mean, to me, he's the winner. He won. But is there a statute of limitation to the point where you can go back and pick up your W? I want to hear what you think. Let's go Zach first, and then we'll go to Armand. Zach, what do you think? What do you think they should do in the situation here?
So I guess without knowing all the context, I'll compare it to the league I won this year. I won just short of $1,000 in December, and I put all of that money onto my tuition. It was spent within like 2 weeks. I do not have an extra $1,000 kicking around right now. So your buddy there that won, maybe he gets the name on the trophy, that little placard on the trophy, but you can forget me paying you back. Not a chance.
What about you, Arm? What do you think would happen if that was you?
I'm on the exact same wavelength as Zach there. Like, that money is spent, it's gone. I don't think it's so late that you can't ask for that money back, I don't think. But you can ask for your name to be put on that trophy. I think that definitely should be done, that the name should be put on the trophy and that he be given the title as league winner, and that other guy hasn't won that year.
So for example, like Zach, you said, say it's $1,000, 70%, obviously that'd be $700 to the winner, $300 to second place. You'd be arguing to try and get $400 from the other guy. That's a good chunk of change to try and also be like, hey, by the way, let's cough this up. So what I ended up proposing, I said, I think worst case Ontario, I think I would message the guy and say split it 50-50. Say it was $1,000, I got 700, I got 300. You give me $200, or I guess in this case you could do the league buy-ins for that year, and then he's going to get the trophy. So I think that's kind of what they're working on right now. And I said, at least that way there's no winner or loser. You're splitting the money right down the middle, and then the guy gets his name on the trophy. I think that's what they're trying to work out, but I don't know the details. It could be a lot more money than that. It could be a lot less. Obviously, if it's less money, it's not as big of a deal. If you're chipping a guy $50, it's $50. It's not that bad, but if it's $1,000, that's a lot of money to be thrown around there. So
yeah, well, the argument goes both ways, right? Like, yeah, it's easy to chip a guy $50. It's also easy to let a $50 go and be like, oh yeah, whatever, it's just $50. Whereas if it's a big money league where it's like you could have won a few grand, then it's like, well, I'm owed a few grand. But then the other guy, it's like, well, I spent a few grand. I don't just have a few grand sitting around, right? So,
and Nick, this has been what? Because that'd have been January. Like, I'm thinking when we wrapped up would have been. It was we watched.
I got paid out for mine before New Year's. It was
because we watched at your house there, during
2 or 3 days. Yeah, 2 or 3 days after Christmas.
So almost half a year, 5 months. It's been 5 months.
It's been a long time. So I think in a situation, like in ours, like we're our league, we have the cumulative rule where if you win X amount of times, you get the Empire pot. That's where it becomes big to say like, no, I actually won, because that's the chance of winning the big bucks, right? It's like especially in those dynasty leagues where, like, I think for example, I win $300 in our league, but then my name goes towards the accumulation. Where now if I win 2 more times, I get that like massive pot. That's more important, I think, than the actual $300 winning at that point. But I'm gonna stay tuned with this one, because it's
you could do as well.
Sorry, Armin.
Oh, like a few other ideas that you could do as well is like, maybe the guy, if he doesn't get the money, maybe he gets free entry into this year, or the guy pays for his, or if you do have an Empire pot, maybe you take a little bit out of the Empire pot just to kind of get that guy
a little bit.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. I'm gonna have to message him after this, because I said, hey, can I talk about this on the pod? I said, I've never heard this before. He goes, yeah, man, go for it. I was like, this is so bizarre. Yeah, we got to talk about this. So,
well, stat correction, it's so rare, but let alone in championship week. Holy crap.
I'll be honest, if it was me, I'd have been checking for like a week straight just to see if there was a chance if I lost by 2 points in the championship. Zach, I think I beat you by 20 points. I'm sure you're still looking for stat corrections.
Yeah, maybe like AJ Brown was ineligible or something.
Yeah, his points with Tennessee no longer count. We'll get to that later. But so talking a little bit about the insiders and headliners, let's get her going.
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
So most of the news here is going to be implicated by the draft and how the draft ended up unfolding. So we'll just do a bit of a draft recap first, and then we'll kind of get into the big trades that happened throughout the draft. But I think, I mean, you do mock drafts like crazy, and you fall in love with certain prospects, and then when the draft comes, it's like, oh, it hurts your soul to watch the guys fly down the board. And I think that could be no more of effect in how a lot of people view maybe the quarterbacks. I think more than anybody. Other than that's maybe Christian Watson, I guess, is another guy that maybe slid down the board a little bit further than people anticipated. But we'll talk about, first of all, Canadians drafted, and then we put this on the socials, but we got John Menchie, who ended up going to Houston in the second round. I think it was pick 44, Canadian, one of three. We also had two defensive players. We had Dean Leonard and we had Jesse Luca, who went both in round 7, first to the Chargers and second to the Cardinals. So it's always nice to see a couple Canadians in the mix. I know there's, I think one other signed as a UDFA right after, and I think 2 or 3 more got invited to rookie camps too. So we might be able to kind of have maybe extra news to talk about guys coming into the league here in the next couple of weeks, which would be really exciting. Obviously, growing the game here in Canada, but John Menchie was a no-brainer. There's a couple other guys that we thought maybe would kind of get in the mix too, but it's always nice to see the addition of some Canadians in the league. But Armand, you want to talk about Mr. Irrelevant?
I just typed it in there because I thought we need to put it in just at least to say his name, right? Mr. Irrelevant this year is Brock Purdy. He's a QB and he got drafted by the 49ers. The last guy coming off the board that on the 7th round there. So I don't think there's a chance he ever really sees an NFL field except maybe in an exhibition game, but they got their future there, and they got a few other QBs, I think, hanging around too. So yeah, pretty irrelevant as far as football goes, but always fun to see which name it is.
Yeah, this one might say it's Purdy irrelevant.
Pretty unlikely. Where's that little drum? I gotta get that drum going here. Hold on. There we go. Yeah, this was like, I would say this draft was like, basically, if you pay any sort of attention to the offseason, this draft followed suit. Like, it was the first thing, 8 picks, 10 picks just kind of went bang, bang, bang in a row. The draft stayed pretty status quo. And then the trades started going crazy. And it's not uncommon to see some trades happen in the first round. You know, guys want to trade out for some guys, but it's pretty uncommon to see 2 extremely impactful players be traded in the first round. We're talking about AJ Brown and talking about Hollywood Brown. So we'll get
bad night to be a Brown.
Yeah, bad day to be a Brown. Did Antonio Brown get traded there too? Maybe for a 7th round pick or something. Could have had the trifecta, but we'll talk about our favorite picks here in a second. But AJ Brown, I think that was a huge shocker, and I think this is I thought this was an unbelievable deal for Philadelphia. They ended up trading him. I think it was for the 18th pick, and then it might have been like for a 5th rounder attached to that too. I can't remember off the top of my head, but and you're looking at the 18th pick. There wasn't much left for wide receiver. I think Dotson went maybe the 16th or something like that. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head here. I don't have the sheet in front of me, but there wasn't much left for wide receiver, and Philadelphia wanted to walk away with a wide receiver, and they pull off this big pick for AJ Brown, which I would say is head and shoulders above any of the wide receiver prospects. Because I think the big thing to take away is AJ Brown's proven it, right? He's a big body receiver that's been successful at NFL level, where these rookie prospects, there's no guarantee they're going to be successful. But I think the major question people are going to wonder about this one, and maybe we'll start with Zach here, and then I'll come to Armin for Hollywood take. But AJ Brown, if you're an AJ Brown owner, or if you're a Devonta Smith owner, is there any sort of maybe a head scratcher or concern if you're one of those owners, or are you kind of being like, you know, one's a big body type receiver and the other guy's a reception receiver? I think we're going to be okay. What are you thinking?
Well, AJ Brown last year had 105 targets in 13 games. So he has shown that he is a competent target, like beast. Like, he can handle a large amount of targets. Looking at the Eagles, I think they are in a position where they can possibly provide players with more targets. After Smith, who had 104, it goes to Goddard, who had 76, and then Quez Watkins, 62, Jalen Reagor, 57. So you just delete Jalen Reagor, And
You could have told me that pre-draft.
yeah, you're half the way there. So
Yeah.
I think this is a really good compliment to what Smith brings to the fold. Both players can make impacts at or near the line of the scrimmage. And then you have that big body with Brown who can make plays over the middle. And then you have Smith stretching the field. So I think they should complement each other nicely. So yeah, I think it was a really good get for the Eagles. And I'll talk more about that in a few minutes, I think.
Yeah, maybe more of a shot at like a guy like Goddard, where he was maybe anticipating the receptions there in the big body, where that might be the bigger hit to Goddard than it is maybe a Devonta Smith.
Certainly so. I would agree.
Yeah. Then Armand, we'll get your take on this one. Secondary trade, obviously, Hollywood Brown of the Ravens was traded to Arizona during this one. And maybe your take 25 minutes ago would have been a little bit different than it is now. But Hollywood Brown being traded there, and then we'll talk about Hopkins here in a second. Maybe you want to hint at that one as we're going. But Hollywood Brown traded there, and it was an auxiliary piece, and now it's Mr. Necessity with Hopkins missing the first 6. What was your original reaction to this one? I know you're a Hollywood Brown fan with the Ravens. Now, is that going to continue on? And maybe you want to talk about the pedigree, with the collegiate quarterback there as well.
Yeah, while we're seeing a trend of so many receivers going back to their collegiate quarterback, and the ones that we have seen, it's been successful so far. So hopefully that trend continues with Hollywood Brown here. And honestly, even before the DeAndre Hopkins news, I liked it. After the DeAndre Hopkins news, I am really into Hollywood Brown in Arizona, especially those first 6 games. There's no reason why he shouldn't be successful with his former college quarterback. He knows him. They both know each other, right? And then to go along with that, I think I'd rather have the second option in Arizona, if he's a good option, like Hollywood Brown level option, over the first option with the Ravens. Kyler throws it more. Yeah, he scrambles a lot and maybe takes some red zone targets away, but so does Lamar Jackson, and Lamar doesn't throw it as much when he scrambles. He's more likely to run it. So I think that matches up a little bit better, in that I think Hollywood is going to have a better season than he has with the Ravens so far. I'm looking forward to him with the Cardinals here this year. Not going to say he's going to be the number 1 when Hopkins is back, because Hopkins is an elite receiver when he's healthy and playing. But I think Hollywood, as long as Hopkins is out, he's the guy in Arizona. I think he's 24. He's got lots of juice left in him. AJ Green is not the receiver he once was. He's going to be tertiary to Brown and Hopkins. And then you look at who else do they have there? Rondale Moore. Well, I might be a little worried about Moore, but you traded for Brown. He's going to get the touches over Moore, but Moore is more of that sweep kind of guy anyways, right? He's not the same type of speedster that Brown is. Brown's a deep threat speedster, whereas Moore is more of that jet sweeps and yak yardage kind of speedster guy.
I think Brown's gonna be a nice little addition to redraft teams, where you can pick him up, I don't know, probably in that 5th round range, and then you're gonna be able to sell him high after probably the first 3-4 weeks. You can hold on to him a little bit longer too. Who knows how Hopkins comes back after a 6-week vacancy, but that might be a guy that you'll be able to get in the 5th round and sell for a 1st or 2nd round product type wide receiver, a true 1. So you can win a couple weeks and try and sneak that one out there. That's somebody that I think I'll be targeting in some redraft to be able to try and flip a couple weeks in. Speaking of which, so we're talking about some picks here that we like. And we'll start with Zach. So this one is our favorite pick of the draft. Maybe not necessarily for obviously our teams. Zach can't really say much because I don't think he has a favorite pick, because the Pats kind of took a deuce on the draft. I was bugging Zach because they always walk away with Alabama guys in the first two rounds. But Zach, let's hear your favorite takeaway from this draft. What's your favorite pick?
So on an NFL offense defense spectrum, the Nakobe Dean pick in the 3rd round to the Philadelphia Eagles seems like a slam dunk. There were reports there on Friday night that he was dealing with some injuries that he may have neglected or possibly taken a contrary approach to getting them repaired. But since then, it sounds like he'll be good to go for camp in the next couple of months. So if that shakes out, I think that's a real steal. But fantasy wise, I think my favorite pick was Sky Moore, going 54th overall to the Kansas City Chiefs. Most mock drafts or big boards that you looked at pre-draft had Sky Moore going before, I think, 54th overall. He was definitely a top 50 pick. So maybe a little bit of a slide there, just, 4 picks. But if he doesn't hit this year, I think he has a very good chance to hit next year. Obviously, the Chiefs do not have Tyreek Hill on the team anymore. But right now, their depth chart would look like in some combination, in some order of Mecole Hardman, Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, the ghost of Josh Gordon, and then a whole lot of guys that nobody's really ever heard of. Just Justin Watson.
Is that a ghost or is that smoke?
Justin Watson, you mean?
No, the Josh Gordon. Is that a ghost or is that smoke?
Josh Gordon. Good call. So while the depth chart may at the moment look a little top heavy, with Sky Moore having to fight for targets, keep in mind Mecole Hardman is a free agent after this year. And Juju, while he signed this offseason, he only signed a 1-year contract. So one or both of those guys could be gone next year. And I think Sky Moore and Scantling, they play very opposite styles. So I think Sky Moore is wheels up in KC. Great route runner, really strong hands, probably a little quicker than fast, more agile than deep speed. So somebody that I think could work the Z or the Y spot in that offense. So I like Sky Moore a lot as a good fit for the team, but also really good value for the team.
Yeah, I when I looked at the docket there, I was like, oh yeah, Zach, I think he's snaking that one. I like Sky Moore quite a bit. I think he hit the nail on the head. You might not see that massive production this year, but that's a guy that could step into a role pretty quickly in year 2, year 3 type situation. So I like that one a lot. But my pick, I like this one quite a bit because he was high on my board because I think he is a highly talented prospect. And it was one of those ones where's he going to land? And there's a couple other places that I think would have been a nice landing spot for him to potentially have the Pat Freiermuth type year 1 breakout. But I'm more or less, I like this guy because you're going to be able to get him, maybe the back end 2nd round, where last year, if you're trying to go for that tight end 1, you're paying up in top 5 picks to get Kyle Pitts. But I like the landing spot for Trey McBride. Zach Ertz is long in the tooth for the NFL. He's signed an extension with Arizona, but if you paid attention to football in the last 5 years, you watch Zach Ertz tape from 5 years ago to now, he's lost a significant step, and he's more of a red zone type target than anything else. And they run a lot of 2 tight end sets. So I guess maybe not 2 tights, but that Wesley, he fits a very tight end type body style. I think he's actually listed as a wide receiver, but he plays very much like a tight end for Arizona. So I like Trey McBride coming into here because he's going to get you cheap. And I'm not expecting huge things from him year 1, but I'm expecting year 2, year 3 when Ertz is on his way out. So I am going to be targeting Trey McBride quite a bit in my rookie drafts in that back end 2nd. And if I don't get him, I'll be looking to even maybe buy him even lower next year because I think people are going to be disappointed with the name and maybe a lack of production because he is going to be sitting behind Zach Ertz this upcoming season. But that is a team that likes to target the tight end, and it's a young team with a good quarterback. So that's a good little recipe for some potential production at the tight end position. And that's what we're all trying to track down. We're all trying to track down the next Kittle, the next Kelsey, the next, those big names that we can try and get on your roster, because we know that having a premier tight end helps you be successful and sets a position of need, obviously. So I like Trey McBride. I like the landing spot. That was somewhere where we talked about, Zach Ertz getting traded from Philly. I think that'd be a good landing spot. Landed there, he had success. Trey McBride could have very similar success as well in the next couple of years. So that's my pick. Armand, I see you got two here. Which one are you gonna go with?
I'm gonna go with I want to talk about both, but I'll be quick and concise here. All right. I'm gonna start with my later pick at 5.8, the 151st pick. Tyler Algiers going to Atlanta, and that one seemed insignificant until I think it was this morning, right, that Mike Davis was released. Yeah. And then suddenly, to me, I'm starting to see him as potentially being the guy in that backfield that they drafted. They were wanting to target him or someone like him, and they got him in the 5th, which is later, but it kind of gives me Alvin Kamara type vibes. He's not extremely fast. Like, Kamara tested slow in the combine, so did Algiers. They run similar in that they have good contact balance. They run hard. They cut well, but they're not like super shifty, and they can catch really well. Algiers is actually an underrated pass catcher. When I started looking into him deeper today, and I like it as a dart throw. Being a 5th round pick, he could be a guy that you could take later in drafts and could potentially have Kamara upside with the tools that he has in his toolbox, and where he landed with Atlanta and Davis being cut and the other running backs being Cordell Patterson, who should be more of a wide back like Deebo Samuel, and then Damian Williams. My main one though is James Cook to Buffalo at the 231, 2nd round, 31st pick, 63rd overall. I love this pick because he jumped up from like the 6th RB to like the 3rd RB off the board, and his speed, I think, is going to kill in that Buffalo offense. If you look at their running backs as of late, what it's been is they've just had trouble reading the holes and breaking out for chunk plays when they do have the blocks. And James Cook is really good at reading the blocks, and he has great acceleration and speed. We talked about it pre-draft. He doesn't break tackles a lot and stuff like that, but he has great vision and he has great speed, which is more of what Buffalo needs out of their running back, because they are able to open the holes. They just need a running back who can see them.
Talking about great vision, great vision will be able to produce is you're going to catch me wearing 22 fresh this upcoming summer. I'm telling you, stylish hats, stylish clothing, nice apparel. I'll tell you, the vision will be 2020 if you see me walking down the street in 22 fresh gear there. So very, very happy to have 22 fresh as a major sponsor this upcoming season. They're going to be pumping out some stuff for us with the charity league, all of our different charity options we're doing throughout the season this upcoming year. They're going to be obviously a major sponsor, and they're very happy to produce some products for us for that. So we're very happy about that. And we got to get these guys in some 22 fresh gear, because major sponsor this year. If you want to look good, with obviously Armands going to be talking about vision here, that's what we're going to be focused on, is how good you look in 22 fresh gear this upcoming year. So if you find yourself down in Regina, be able to get down to 22 fresh, check out their store location. If not, find them on 22fresh.com and be able to order online as well. So 22 fresh, thank you very much, major sponsor this year. Looking forward to this partnership, and I'm very, very thankful for the opportunity. So talking about thankful for some opportunities here, we got some risers and fallers of the draft. Some guys are gonna be super happy where their positions are following the draft. Some guys that were a little bit more disappointed on, and I'll start this one off with my riser. And I think this guy, I think, needs to get a little bit more credit because he's been very successful in the NFL. He's had one off year due to injury. And I think that's the big knock for this guy. And that was why I think a lot of fantasy owners thought, or I guess even draft analysts thought, that this team was going to go after a running back. And there are some connections to some big name running backs early on in the draft too. And they didn't take a running back until I think it was late six. I'll talk about him in a second. But my biggest riser is James Conner, and I think he's disrespected. And nobody walked away with a better position to have the lockdown role than James Conner. I'm going to list off a couple names here, and you can tell me when you want to stop throwing up. We got Eno Benjamin. Yeah, you can start puking from that point on because it doesn't get any better. Jonathan Ward, Jalen Samuels, end of list, other than two rookies that were taken in the 6th, 7th, and UDFA. So James Conner, there's literally zero competition for him in that backfield in a really, really competitive team. And James Conner had a huge year last year. I think he had 14 touchdowns or something near that. He did excellent work in the receiving game. And it wasn't many times he was stopped in the goal line for rushing touchdowns. So this is a guy that I'm going to be targeting in drafts significantly. You can get him relatively cheap in dynasty leagues. And I think his ADP right now, I think is like the back end or middle 2nd round pick, which I think is just a disgrace because he's got round 1 upside. I think he's got, like you're talking about guys with like Jonathan Taylor. It's going to be obviously in the 101, 102 conversation. CMC, Dalvin Cook. And then after that list, there's not many other guys that has the upside like James Conner with absolutely zero competition. The only thing that can bring him down is injury. But right now, I think he's a guy that I am all in on this season because it's his backfield and there's zero competition to come from it. So the one thing I will say, it hurts my soul to say no competition because their 6th round pick was, I think it was Ingram, and he's a USC guy, which hurts my feelings to talk about a USC guy like that. But this is James Conner's backfield, and there's nobody taking that from him. So he's got more upside than any running back, I think, especially leaving this draft for a guy that's been as disrespected and talking about losing his starting role. So that's my riser following the NFL draft.
He's going to be this year's James Conner or Chris Carson for you, isn't he?
No, you don't say that. You don't say that. You don't put that juju on me. Armand, you want to talk about your riser?
Yeah, I'll give my riser a go here. I win with Treylon Burks. I mean, what more vote of confidence can you have than being the guy who's being comped to AJ Brown, and then the team that owns AJ Brown trades AJ Brown for the pick to pick you? I mean,
would you say, Zach, 103 vacated targets?
105.
Yeah, like Burks has been compared to him this whole draft process, and then he walks right into the role that AJ Brown held in that Tennessee offense. He's young. He's going to be a stud. We're talking highly about him before the draft. And in my mind, if I'm in redraft, he's probably the rookie wide receiver that I'm targeting in redraft first. And then dynasty, an argument could be made for him to be going. Some guys might choose to pick him before any of the other wide receivers just for that instant production, right? And he'll probably have the better of the first few seasons compared to the other guys. When you look at where they landed, like Wilson to the Jets, they still got to figure their stuff out. Like they weren't anything special last year. Wilson might help them a lot, but it's supposed to be a run first team as well, right? And then who is the other ones? Jameson Williams to the Lions. They're in a rebuild there as well, right? Just Burks goes into the best situation out of all the top end receivers. Also Drake London too, right? Like they're in rebuild mode. He doesn't have the talent of QB that Burks is going to have this year. Not that Tannehill is top tier or anything, but he's proven to give a single reliable wide receiver, which should be Burks this year.
It wouldn't be an episode without doing Detroit Lions talk, and you brought it on me here talking about Jameson Williams. But that's a sneaky good offense. Like look on paper, that's a sneaky offense. You got Jameson Williams, get him back healthy. He arguably should have been the wide receiver 1 in this draft class. I know, Zach, you've talked about him more than enough times that if he was healthy, he was the wide receiver 1, no brainer. So he comes even close to what he was. That's an unbelievable blue chip prospect. And you got Amon-Ra St. Brown coming off a huge season. You got the big body wide receiver DJ Chark. You got DeAndre Swift in the backfield with a nice little Jamal Williams kind of coming in as the 1-2 punch. Obviously, Swift carrying a lot of the load. You got TJ Hawkinson. Like, that's a sneaky little offense. It's just if Jared Goff could maybe just take that little leap, a little bit of an upgrade. I think it's sneaky. I think it's sneaky. It's gonna be underrated, and that's not even just the Lions goggles on right now. Check out Twitter. I think people are feeling the buzz a little bit.
Like the weapons are good, but like you said, banking on Goff taking the next step is pretty tough when he's been given so many years to take that next step.
We've seen him support some massive fantasy seasons, though. We had the Cup and they had the Woods big year. I think Zach had. I think that was the year you had wrote him off in the championship. I think that was the year you played me and you'd even start a kicker. No kicker. You waxed me so hard on the Thursday nighter. It was sick, but we've seen him support fantasy weapons before. So, I mean, get a little confidence in him in the Motor City. We'll see. Maybe some things happen. But Zach, you want to talk about your big riser?
Yeah, for sure. But before I do that, I just want to say that I do agree with your sentiment there with the Lions. I think we would be hard pressed right now to come up with, I want to say 10 teams that have a better set of skill players than the Lions. And I do agree. I think Goff is the one thing on offense that's really going to be holding them back, and expecting a year 7 breakout. That is it's asking a lot. So
there's some people saying that we should go after Baker Mayfield. That's one of the same. But hey, imagine what they could do with a quarterback like Matthew Stafford. Imagine how good they'd be. Super Bowl.
Yeah, and then you don't have Williams because he used that pick, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because he used 32. Yeah, Armand was just chapped about that one. I like that one. Well, I think the Vikings got good draft capital in return, but it's not often you see a team climb that high in the first round without having to give a first round pick. So I was quite happy with that.
That Minnesota strategy was weird though.
How many times they trade back? Like 4 picks in a row?
I don't know, but it was all to division rivals
to help them get the skill players they wanted. Yeah. They traded. That was the pick that Watson went to, right?
Yeah. It was Watson and Williams. I was like, what? What?
Just getting dusted by those two for the next 5 years.
Yeah, the 2 fastest receivers in the draft are now in my division.
Yeah, absolutely dunking on you.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, Zach Fowler. Let's hear Riser. Sorry, let's hear it.
All right. So not that he wasn't already near the top at his position, but I think Jalen Hurts got a huge boost this weekend. Not only did they obviously secure AJ Brown at receiver for him this year, a true number one, a bona fide number one. I don't think lowly on Devontae Smith, but I think AJ Brown is a dominant number one receiver. So I think between him and Smith, you got a good 1-2 punch. And then they also secured in the second round Cam Jurgens, center out of Nebraska. He's somebody that if he doesn't start this year, somewhere along the interior offensive line, I would assume he starts next year when Kelsey retires. So they went and got 2 impact players in the draft that will help Hurts this year and going forward into the future. If you look at the targets from last year, I've already mentioned them, but Smith had 104, and then the next closest receiver had 62. So I think there's a lot of room there for their passing game to open up. And I could see both Smith and Brown eclipsing 100 targets. And I think that's going to open up not only the passing game for Hurts, but potentially the running game as well. So Hurts is somebody that I would be pretty confident in, whether it's redraft or dynasty this fall.
Yeah, I like it. He was you do think though, so here's the thing, if he underperforms this year, do you think they use their first next year on a Q, or do you think they kind of keep rolling with him as their second round Q and build more weapons around maybe the defense? Because I mean that offense isn't going to get much better.
Here, that's a really good question. I think I want to say 3 or 4 weeks, like a month before the draft, they traded because they had 3 firsts this most recent draft. Off the top of my head, I cannot recall who they traded one of those firsts to. For some reason, the Saints kind of
Yeah, it was
stand
the
out in
Saints
my
because
mind.
Saints went in front of the Chargers.
Okay, so they traded to the Saints. So now they have they have like 2 or 3 firsts next year, which puts them in a really good spot, I think, to potentially move up to get one of those quarterbacks, whether it's Stroud or Young.
One thing, the
Next year in the
Saints could
draft.
stink this year. They could just literally be a top 5 pick just because of the Saints. Like, there's no
Yeah,
guarantee the
absolutely.
Saints are going to be any good this year. Like, that's a tough division, and you still have Carousel of Q. There's no guarantee they're going to be any good. So
Absolutely. So
if you're a fan of Philadelphia, you're laughing right now.
They put themselves in a really good spot, I think.
Yeah.
Both in the short term and in the long term.
And that's the thing. If Hurts is the guy, you got 3 first-round picks to build your roster on next year too. You got a top 5 pick. You could sell that top 5 pick to QB needy team and keep adding. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it can be never ending. And this is all started from that Carson Wentz trade. Like, it's just, yeah. If you're a Philadelphia fan, you got no complaints right now. It's been a pretty good year for you guys. I'm going to talk about my faller here. And this one sucks because I am very high on this player. I like him because I like watching him. He's a Canadian as well, so that always adds to the fuel the fire. But what makes it worse is that he's on a couple of my fantasy teams, which makes everything worse, I guess. But my faller is Chase Claypool, wide receiver of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So off of his huge rookie season where he had some couple really big boom games, people really high on him, huge prospect. Kind of almost a no miss opportunity in that second year breakout, and he had a significantly down year. Deontay Johnson stepped up in a big way. Big Ben's arm was pooched, I guess, for lack of better terms. But then you saw a loss of Juju, so that was an opportunity for him to step into vacated targets, and he didn't do so. And then you saw a breakout of Pat Freiermuth. So Chase Claypool is kind of the outside looking in. But then Pittsburgh did him real dirty because they made him announce the actual pick of his potential replacement. So Chase Claypool steps up to the podium and announces that they're going to be drafting the George Pickens. So it did him dirty, first of all. But they're in a situation now where they drafted Kenny Pickett, and they also are rolling into the season with, I'm not going to call it QB carousel, but they have Mitch Trubisky, which by all accounts could be an upgrade from Big Ben from arm strength perspective. We've seen him support a wide receiver 1 in the past, obviously when he was in Chicago. But now you got Kenny Pickett, who could be playing for that starting position. And then now you're going to be outside looking in. Deontay Johnson's that target hog who had a huge breakout season that's significantly earned the trust from the franchise. You got the second-year breakout of tight end Pat Freiermuth, who's very, very promising. And then now you got this absolute mean streak, George Pickens, which fits that Pittsburgh mold. You're mean, you're tough. That's what Pittsburgh likes. So you're going to be outside looking potentially for 4th or 5th in targets because Najee Harris, obviously, look how many receptions he had last year. So it was already going to be a difficult year for Chase Claypool. And now with potentially them drafting your replacement, Chase Claypool stocks are going down in a hurry, and they could go down even quicker as of week 1. He could step up to the plate and maybe get 1 target in week 1. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So if I'm a Chase Claypool owner right now, I'm going to try and sell high on his name value and how young he is, because I think he's 23, maybe 24 off the top of my head. I don't have his age in front of me here, but he's had 1 pretty good season, and then he had a really, really bad sophomore campaign, and I don't think it looks very promising for him here in his 3rd year. So I'd be selling high on name value and moving on and putting my chips somewhere else.
He's 23.
Yeah, and who's to say that he doesn't relocate out after his rookie contract's over and he has a breakout? But I'm not willing to sit for 2.5 years for a possibility that he's a breakout. I mean, I could be sitting here next year eating crow that Pickett rolls in and all of a sudden that's his favorite receiver. But I'm going to be taking the bet on probability here, and it's looking pretty unlikely. So sell high on the name and put those eggs in a different basket. Like, if your rookie draft's coming up and you can get back end first for him, is pretty unlikely, but you might be able to do a package deal of some sort to try and get another young wide receiver, or or something of that sort. But, or go for the full rebuild and go for the 23 draft class, because I know that's the hot commodity. Everybody's all hot and bothered for the 23 draft class too. So there's options out there, but I would be trying to move on because I think it's gonna get worse before it gets better.
Speaking of Pickens, did you guys see the video that was making its rounds today of him at his house, or him at his draft party when his name was announced?
Nope.
He's standing right in front of the TV. He's wearing like a ski mask essentially, and he's got like a tucked in like Under Armour type of performance shirt, and like just the way he's standing, like poor posture. It looks like he has a gut. Like it looked like me, like standing in front of the TV as I'm like cooking supper, just like embarrassing. Like could not look any less attractive. And they announce his name, and he's bobbing his head, and everybody's going crazy, but he's just bobbing his head.
Just gut punched out too.
Yeah.
I'd be like me putting on some Under Armour performance gear. I'd look like a stuffed sausage link, I think. Armand, you want to talk about your faller?
I do, but first I got a rebuttal for you on Chase Claypool.
Let's hear it.
You said his 2021 season was bad. I'm just going to point out something. It was touchdown dependent. In his rookie season, he had 870 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns, and then 16 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Last year, he had a small regression in his receiving yards, but he still had over 800. He had 823, but he only had 1 receiving touchdown. And then he had more rushing yards, though. He had 63 rushing yards, but no rushing touchdowns. So he was really held down in the red zone, it looks like. Teams must have been doubling him or something, right? And then the emergence of Pat Fairmouth as a red zone target, right? But you look at those stats, it's not like he had an awful year. It's just he didn't get many touchdowns.
And all this was all done while on vacated targets. That was without Juju Smith-Schuster the entire season. So I think part of it too is everybody's burnt, because like we remember last year when I was talking about my guys and I went Deontay Johnson, my guy, and the rebuttal was, well, what about Claypool? Claypool's got more upside, big body, touchdown guy. And I said, well, I'm going for the safety of the receptions, and we're going for that. And Claypool, by all counts, I mean, I would consider it a bust based on expectation, I guess. Maybe what are you going to finishing wide receiver 40 on the season? I don't have the full ranks in front of me, but I don't even think he cracked the top 30.
Yeah, he was expected to do more last year.
Yeah,
but he didn't play to the expectations that were put on him, but he did also meet his production minus touchdowns.
There's also the discussion too that did he lose the confidence in the coaching staff? You know, he had the little bit of the on-field issues, and whether you want to buy into that or not, I guess is your own decision. But if that's the case and they're drafting his replacement, I think they did him dirty by making him go up there to draft his replacement. But maybe they are looking for that big body receiver, because we've talked about Pickens, and he's a tough, mean guy, and he fits the mold of what Chase Claypool could be, right? And you're waiting at least 2 years to see him on a new squad. If they let him walk after his rookie contract's up, then you're hoping for a good landing spot. You're hoping for a connection. It could be 3 years before we see Chase Claypool become what we were looking for, right? And by that point, I've moved on long before then.
I hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong too. I own him in a lot of leagues, but I'm still going to try and sell him regardless.
I'm keeping him.
Cover my bets. But let's hear your faller there, Armand.
Oh, hey, mine. It pains me to say it because it's not based on performance at all. It's just dumb bad luck for this guy, Chris Carson. He's my draft day faller. I originally had Kenneth Walker written in there, and I was like, no, he got drafted second round. He's not a faller. He got drafted where he should be, to a team that loves to run the ball. That's telling me that the Seahawks are not very confident that Carson is actually going to be able to come back from his neck injury. Neck injuries are serious things, right? It sucks that he got a neck injury, and you don't want to mess with that too much. And the fact that like I read some stuff on him, and he's like quoted and not full speed yet, right? Like he's hesitant yet and stuff like that. Just it doesn't sound like he's trying to be positive in his statements, but you can also kind of see that like there's a lot of question marks there. And so the Seahawks drafted what I thought could be possibly the best running back in the class. Him and Breece Hall are kind of A and B there at running back one. And then they got Penny, who broke out last year. So it's sorry, Chris Carson, but I think you're on the outside looking in, and it sucks to say, especially for Jordan, because he was Jordan's guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna play this as I share my 2 cents. Me staring into a rainy window as I'm driving down the highway. I think honestly, I don't know if Chris Carson plays another snap of football, and that kills me to say because I am a huge Chris Carson fan. I love the guy. I love the way he plays the game, but you hit the nail on the head. Neck injury. It's been a chronic neck injury. Had to have surgery on it. I don't know if he plays football again. And you said you were a little bit concerned about Rashad Penny, but signed the 1 year. I think it was $3 million, $4 million deal. There's very little investment, not like a second round. I think it was like second round, 5th overall or something like that. It was pretty early in that second round, and obviously a draft day prospect that you were very, very high on, Armand, and I think we were all pretty high on. And you said if he can get that receiving work going on, he's a clear cut first overall pick for you in rookie drafts. So I think both those guys are outside looking at it. And Kenneth Walker, that's his position to step in day one, I think. Zach, do you want to share your faller?
Sure. My faller for this upcoming season is Rondell Moore. And this one might I might change my mind on this in a couple of days, who knows. So the news broke this morning that Hopkins is being suspended for 6 games, and everything that I've read today indicates that he is not going to appeal the suspension. So it looks like he's out for 6 games, the first 6 games of the season. But before the Hopkins suspension, I was looking at the depth chart in Arizona, and I saw the likes of Hopkins, of the newly acquired Hollywood Brown, and Father Time AJ Green, and then Zach Ertz as well. And then way at the bottom, I saw Rondell Moore, last year's 2nd round draft pick for the Cardinals. On the season last year, Moore finished tied for 4th on the team in targets, as well as 4th on the team in receptions. So, or that can't be right. Sorry. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well, Hopkins didn't really play last year much.
Yeah,
so.
he was out for most.
Yeah, he missed, I think, 7 games, but Moore missed the last 3 or 4 games as well. So I'm taking that into account too. But so still though, AJ Green outproduced Moore, both in targets, receptions, and in yards. Christian Kirk, however, is gone. So that's like 103 targets and 77 receptions out the window. But you would assume between a healthy Hopkins and a healthy Hollywood Brown, the 2 of those would absorb a lot of those targets. But now with Hopkins being gone, that's kind of up in the air. So I don't know what to make of Rondell Moore. Him and Hollywood Brown, to me at least, they're very similar. Both 5'9", between 170, 180 pounds. Both are small guys that rely on athleticism to get open. Neither are going to bully their way open. Both can be used at or near the line of scrimmage. Both can be used plays in the backfield. And I think Moore does have the speed to make some deep shots. So I think they might have just traded for a better souped up version of Rondell Moore, who has a connection with their quarterback. So to me, Rondell Moore is somebody that is sliding down the depth chart, and hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully he's able to make a name for himself this year while Hopkins is gone.
Do you think it's worth the risk of a buy low right now in Dynasty?
How low is buy low?
Wow. I mean, everybody's rookie drafts are coming up right now. So say like Back end first, early second.
I don't think I'd go that low, or I don't think I'd go that high. If I could do like a later second, I would. But I think if you look at whether it's one QB or super flex, I think there are a lot of guys that I would want before more. Like off the top of my head in no order, I'm definitely taking Hall and Walker at running back. The receivers I'm taking before him would be Williams, Olave, the receiver out of New York,
Wilson.
Burke,
Wilson,
yeah,
London.
Burke, London,
Dotson,
I think so. Just because
Sky
you're
Moore.
looking at
Moore.
with like Watson, you're looking at that receiver room is the opposite of what Arizona has. That skill, like that receiver room, might be the worst in the NFL, honestly. So,
True.
like that's an easy spot to get targets, I think, even though he is transitioning from a lower level.
Pickens.
So there's, pardon me.
Pickens.
I think so.
John Dotson.
That one would be, yeah, probably.
Yes. Now we're already into, and then you throw in a couple Qs in there. We're already into middle second round.
Yeah. So then, like, if it's super flex, you're certainly Pickett's going to go. Obviously, I look like a real fool taking Willis 1-1 in our little activity there last episode, but I was really I was shocked that he fell as far as he did, and I thought that draft capital would be there to make him worthy of that spot. So
we were talking to him at 102 possibly. Like it was like the Lions were rumored to take him at 102. It was was a fall from grace. Is unbelievable.
So I think in super flex, you're looking at Pickett for sure in the first, and then maybe like late first, early second, maybe guys like Carroll and Ridder, but I don't know if you can go that early on those guys. But yeah, like we said, you're early to mid second with the guys that we listed, and that's not even the likes of Cook in Buffalo as a potential kind of dart throw there. So I think though this year's rookies are certainly better than, or at least have more potential right now than Rondell Moore.
Especially because he's just so buried on the depth chart.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I guess we'll wrap this one up here with it is Armands' turn for Ice Cold Hot Take. I'll do the old drop and we'll see what Armand got to share with us. If there's one thing I know, Armand definitely had the spiciest of the hot takes last year. So I'm really excited to get the trend going here and see what Armand has to say for this one. So here we go, Armand.
You're not on fire, Ricky Bobby. I'm on fire.
All right. So my ice cold hot take. Let's start with a few questions here. So who are the top 3 QBs taken off the board in the draft?
Pickett, Ridder, and Willis. Was it Willis third? Yeah.
Yeah. So Pickett went in the first round, and then Ridder went in the third, right? And so did Willis.
The Ritter's early third, and then Willis was late third, I think.
Yeah.
On the whole,
So,
I have the draft from. I guess I could look.
Yeah, I just pulled it up again. I was trying to find it on my sheet, but I couldn't. Yeah, so Ridder was third, Willis was third as well. So year one, which QB is going to have the most productive season, do you think, out of those 3?
Year one?
For me, it's a toss-up between Pickett and Carroll. If Carroll can start, and I think that quarterback room, that quarterback competition is wide open in Carolina.
Right. So Pickett, Carroll. And what about the years after that, though? Who in the next 5 years is going to be the best, do you guys think?
I think that really hinges on next year's quarterback class. I think if Atlanta sucks, which they have all the makings of being a real stinker of a team, I think they're prime candidates for an early quarterback. Similar for Carolina. they're in a real downer of a spot too.
All right. So you're saying then it would probably be Willis or Pickett?
I
Yeah,
think Pickett.
I think so. Pickett for sure.
Right.
Willis
right.
might be waiting a bit because he's waiting. The only way he gets in is an injury to Tannehill, I think.
Yeah. So here's where I'm going for years 2 to 5. Desmond Ridder is going to be the most productive QB from this class. Not this coming year. He's not going to come out as the number one, I don't think, but I think will steal it from Mariota because we haven't seen much from him as the season goes on, and then next year he'll end up being the starter. Now, what was Desmond? Do you guys remember what Desmond Ritter's biggest weakness was from his draft profile? If you don't, I can just say, but do you guys remember?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember.
All right, so he's a pretty athletic QB, right? He's a great leader. The biggest knock against him was his accuracy.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Who are his top 2 targets in Atlanta?
Drake and Pitts.
Yeah, Drake and Pitts. 2 big guys who will be able to catch contested balls and win those 50-50 balls, right? Now, I'm not saying Desmond Ridder is going to be an extremely accurate QB, but with his rushing upside and the fact that he has 2 extremely good contested catch weapons at receiver, I think he could end up being very productive and enough that he will outshine Pickett and Willis for from years 2 to 5, based solely on that. Willis, he's in the Tennessee Titans offense, and yeah, you say he's got that upside. He's going to be a rushing QB, but if I recall correctly, not to the same level that Willis is, but Tannehill is supposed to be a QB that can rush, right? And run the ball, and he's supposed to be athletic. So Willis will be more productive than Tannehill, but I don't think in that offense, with it being such a run-heavy offense, that he is going to be as productive as Ridder with the weapons and the rushing upside that Ridder has. And then Pickett with the Steelers, he has lots of weapons and everything, but he doesn't have the same rushing upside that the other guys do. And the Steelers aren't that type of team to have designed runs for their QB. And then if you take into effect Carl, I don't see it in Carolina. I just honestly don't. So I'm going with Ridder for the years 2 to 5.
Very plausible. I'll put. It's not like it's like totally out to lunch there. Like he was one of my favorites, and I mean we didn't really see any sort of draft capital given to any of the quarterbacks other than Pickett. So I mean he's kind of locked in. He's got the obviously the 5th-year option, so we're going to see Kenny Pickett for the next handful of years possibly, especially if he can win that starting role. But everybody else, it's like there's no guarantee, there's no fast track for them to being a starting quarterback in the NFL. So it's a hot take, but I think it's definitely a possibility because I did like his draft prospect, but obviously NFL may have had a different opinion.
Yeah. I was checking out the contract on Tannehill just now, and to see when he was a free agent, to see what Willis's waiting time could be. So for the year 2022, Tannehill has good for him, $54.4 million dead cap with a 38.6 cap hit. Oof. Like he's not going nowhere. Ew. Base salary of $29 million. But after this year, it drops significantly down to 18.8 cap hit, which still a huge sum of money, but we've seen teams kind of absorb that type of number in the past. And then after next year, the contract voids, he becomes a free agent. So we're looking at 1 year for sure, maybe 2 years in Tennessee for Tannehill, where maybe Willis does develop. I think that's kind of what Willis needed. And I think that's what a lot of people thought Willis needed was a year on the bench, a year learning the quarterback position after making that big jump. But I do agree, Armand. I think I said it in the last episode. Ridder was my favorite quarterback in the class. So I could definitely see that happening. But I am concerned about this season, and they might be in that position where it is too good to pass up taking one of those like blue chip 5-star quarterbacks.
Because they're going to be top 5 worst teams in the NFL. You can book that.
Yeah, that's where in the hot take, it probably needs to be that Ridder steals that starting spot and shines at the end of the season.
They're going to be put in that situation. They'd be the Philadelphia Eagle Jalen Hurts situation where you got this second in our situation, it's a 3rd rounder, but he starts producing it in a big way, and it's like, hey, well, you know what? Maybe we got our guy, because that's the same position that Philadelphia's put in. Was it 2 drafts ago where Hurts came in week 16, I think it was, and started producing? And they're like, oh crap, well, do we roll with him or do we replace him? And they ended up dealing Wentz, and then went in, and now they didn't draft an under Q this year, and now they're in. We're still talking about it obviously this episode, but that would be the dream situation where your hot take would obviously relish, right?
Yeah. And what I liked about it was just that he has weapons that make up for his weakness, right? They're contested catch guys. They're guys that if it's a bad throw, they're going to help make up for it. They got long arms. They're athletic. They can jump, right? They'll make up for the accuracy for him.
Yep, I like it. Anything to add to here, fellas, before we wrap this one up? Right on. Thanks for listening to the episode number. What is this? Episode number 47?
Yeah.
And they're coming fast and furious. Hard to believe we got there. Number 50 is coming up right away. It's crazy to believe. But thanks everybody listening to episode number 47. Obviously, big thanks to 22 Fresh, our major sponsor of the year. And one more time, a congratulations to Mason Hawks taking home our draft day giveaway. But thank you for listening, everybody. Thanks for the support on social media. On behalf of Zach, Armand, and myself, take care, everybody. Talk soon. Thanks for the support.